You feel the first fever coming on. Your throat aches, your body goes heavy, and your first instinct is simple. You reach for a small orange bottle, or you tap a doctor's name on your phone. And within a day, the thing inside you is being named, measured, and fought. Now take all of that away. No pills, no pharmacy, no hospital, no word for the germ that is quietly taking your body apart. For almost all of human history, this was not a nightmare. This was Tuesday. For roughly 300,000 years, your ancestors got sick exactly like you do. They caught fevers. They broke bones. Their teeth rotted. Their wounds turned green. Their children burned up in the night. And they had no idea what a bacterium was, no idea what a virus was, no clock to measure a pulse, no science at all. So what did they actually do? Because here's the part that surprises people. They did not just lie down and wait to die. Not even close. The oldest medicine on earth is not written in any book. It is written in bone, in ancient teeth, and in the frozen body of a man who died on a mountain more than 5,000 years ago. Let's start with him. In 1991, 2 hikers in the Alps found a corpse melting out of the ice. Everyone assumed it was a lost climber. It was not. It was a man who had died around 3,300 BC, preserved so perfectly by the glacier that scientists could read his stomach, his lungs, even his last meal. They named him Ötzi. And when researchers examined what Ötzi carried, they found something remarkable. Tucked into his gear were pieces of a fungus called birch polypore. To you, it looks like a dried lump of wood. But that fungus contains compounds that are toxic to intestinal parasites. And here is the twist that makes your skin prickle. When they examined Ötzi's gut, they found the eggs of a whipworm, a parasite that lives in the human intestine. A man in pain, 5,000 years ago, was carrying the one thing in the forest that could fight the exact worm inside him. That is not luck. That is knowledge. So where did that knowledge come from? It came from something older than words. It came from watching. Long before humans, animals were already medicating themselves. The primatologist Michael Huffman spent years documenting chimpanzees in Tanzania who, when sick, would swallow the bitter, unpalatable leaves of a plant called Vernonia. Healthy chimps ignored it. Sick ones sought it out. The leaves helped clear the parasites from their guts. Your ancestors watched the same animals. They noticed which plant a sick deer chewed. They noticed which leaf calmed a churning stomach and which berry, eaten by mistake, emptied it violently. Some of that testing killed people. A wrong root, a poisonous leaf, and the experiment ended in a shallow grave. But every person who died taught the ones who lived. And over thousands of years, that hard, bloody noticing became a library, stored not on paper, but in the living memory of every elder in the group. This is why old people mattered so much. An elder was not a burden. An elder was your search engine. When a child spiked a fever no one had seen before, the group did not open a book. It turned to the oldest person by the fire, the one who had watched 60 years of sickness come and go, and asked a single question. What do we do? We can actually taste that library in the mouths of the dead. At a cave in northern Spain called El Sidrón, researchers led by the archaeologist Karen Hardy studied the hardened plaque on the teeth of Neanderthals who lived around 50,000 years ago. Locked inside that ancient plaque were microscopic chemical traces of the plants they had eaten. And 2 of those plants stood out: yarrow
and chamomile. Here is why that matters. Yarrow and chamomile are bitter. They have almost no nutritional value. No hungry creature eats bitter, worthless plants for fun. Yarrow is a known anti-inflammatory and helps stop bleeding. Chamomile soothes the stomach. These Neanderthals, a species we once dismissed as brutes, were choosing medicine. So picture the scene. Not the cartoon caveman grunting in a swamp. Picture something quieter and far more human. A member of your ancient family has a wound gone hot and swollen. The skin around it is tight and red, and a fever is climbing. An older woman kneels beside them. She has no idea what infection is. She has never heard the word bacteria. But she knows, because her mother knew, and her mother's mother knew, which leaf to crush into a paste and press against the skin, and which one to steep in warm water to bring the fever down. Someone else brings water and holds it to cracked lips. A child is sent to gather more of the right leaves. Someone keeps the fire close so the sick one stays warm through the night. No one is paid. No one is told to. It simply happens, the way it has always happened. This is not superstition. This is the first hospital, and it has no walls, no doctors, and no name.
And that brings us to the most powerful medicine your ancestors ever discovered. It was not a plant at all. It was each other. Go back to a cave in northern Iraq called Shanidar, excavated by the archaeologist Ralph Solecki. Among the Neanderthal remains he uncovered was a man known now as Shanidar I. Study his skeleton and you read a brutal life. He was blind in one eye, his right arm was withered and possibly amputated below the elbow. He had a crushing injury to the side of his head and a damaged leg that would have left him limping in constant pain. And yet, his bones show these injuries healed. This man lived for years after wounds that should have killed him within days. Think about what that means. A blind, one-armed, limping man cannot hunt. He cannot run from a predator. He cannot keep up when the group moves. In a world of pure survival, he was, coldly speaking, useless. So why didn't he die? Because someone fed him. Someone protected him. Someone chose, day after day, to carry the weight of a person who could give nothing back. And Shanidar I is not alone. In a small cave in France called La Chapelle-aux-Saints, researchers found another Neanderthal, an old man whose skeleton told the same story. His spine was twisted by arthritis. His hips were worn. He had lost almost all of his teeth years before he died, which means he could no longer chew tough meat or hard roots on his own. Someone had to soften his food for him. Someone had to keep an old, aching, half-toothless man alive long past the point where he could feed himself. The archaeologist Penny Spikins argues that this kind of long-term care is not an accident in the human story. It is one of the reasons we survived at all. A group that abandons its sick loses the knowledge those people carry. A group that keeps them alive keeps the library open. Compassion, it turns out, was a survival strategy. Now let me show you the flip side, the part nobody expects. Sometimes your ancestors did something that sounds insane. They drilled holes into living human skulls. It is called trepanation, and it is one of the oldest known surgeries on Earth, performed across the ancient world, from Europe to the Andes. A person with a head injury or crushing headaches would have a piece of their skull scraped or bored away while they were still alive, with a sharp stone and no anesthetic beyond whatever plant could dull the mind. You would assume this was a death sentence. But here is the stunning part. When we examine these ancient skulls, a huge number of them show new bone growth around the hole. Smooth, healed, rounded edges. That bone only grows if the person lived. Many of these patients survived their own skull surgery, sometimes more than once, and walked around for years afterward. Your ancestors were not helpless. They were experimenting, remembering, and passing down what worked. But now comes the twist that reframes this entire story. For all their skill, ancient humans were not healthier than you. In many ways, disease was quietly waiting for a door to open. And your ancestors opened it themselves. When humans stopped roaming and settled into the first farms and villages, they packed together with their animals, their waste, and their stored grain. And disease exploded. Skeletons from early farming settlements often show worse health than the hunter-gatherers before them, shorter, sicker, riddled with new infections. The very thing that built civilization also built the perfect nursery for plague. So the deepest medicine your ancestors had was never the strongest cure. It was the tribe. It was the knowledge held in an old woman's memory. It was the hand that kept the fire lit and the water coming when you were too weak to move. And that instinct never left you. Think about the last time you were truly sick. Yes, you took the pill, but what do you actually remember? You remember someone bringing you soup, a hand on your forehead, a person sitting in the dark room so you were not alone. That is not medicine your pharmacy sells. That is Shanidar. That is the fire kept close. That is a script written into you across 300,000 years. So the next time a fever comes on, and your first instinct is to reach for that small orange bottle, remember what your ancestors reached for first. They reached for each other.